All right, welcome everybody. Today we have Rohan joining us. Rohan has over 17 years of IT experience. He started his career at Microsoft and over the years has held various roles at different companies, ranging from Chief Operating Officer, Chief Technology Officer, and now Chief Executive Officer of PAYS POS. Rohan, thank you so much for joining us today in the bread room. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Matthew. It's a great pleasure connecting with you.
Awesome. Yeah, we're super excited about this episode. You've quite a bit of experience building and running companies, startups specifically. Looks like your most recent one is Pays POS. So let's jump into what does Pays do? What's your role there today?
All right, so we're pretty excited about this company. So Pace is a fintech innovation, and it's like we primarily focus on like point of sale solutions, and our three areas of focus has been Pace restaurant solution. We got a solution for like Pace retail, and we are also venturing into the service industry. And my role at Pace has been since I started my early days as a solution architect. I'm still focused onto making sure it's like we are perfectly through from an architecture perspective, from a solution perspective. Especially it's like we are into the world of like AI, so you have to be on the top of the game. Apart from that, it's like I also play like a significant role into strategy management, making sure we are heading in the right directions. And I think it's like just taking all the curveballs, it's like from the company perspective.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. And Pays specifically services the restaurant industry. That's correct. What was one of the reasons you believe that Pays needed to exist as a current solution today?
So I kind of like dived into the solution, and that all goes like based upon my past experience. So I started my early days, almost like 10 years of my career I've given into the fintech space. So I was based out in like Manchester, spent like quite some time like in UK. It's like I had a great experience of like working with Eloan. And then when I moved to like US, I had a great experience of like working with like some of the best companies. Had offered solution to like Pfizer, and then it's like Thesis, which is global today. And then we worked like with MacTech and Genico. So all that experience added up. It's like in years to come. And then I also started in restaurants like back in Miami, and I saw the challenges is like which the restaurant owners were facing. And I said, it's like, okay, I come from the tech background. Why don't I like deep dive into this, and I create like a simple solution which will be like a very practical solution for the businesses, and the onboarding process would be pretty easy for them. And that's how I it's like that's how Pace was like born.
Like you mentioned, you've spent a lot of time in the space. Then, what trends are you paying attention to right now? What's exciting in the restaurant space?
I think the restaurant space is, it's like it's a crowded space, and there is like too much competition. And as you imagine, it's like since it's a very competitive space from the business perspective, the owners are really worried. It's like they don't want to work with multiple companies. It's very hard for a restaurant owner. It's like to keep track of records. Like you're dealing with like one point of sale company and the second processing company. Then it's like something goes wrong. It's like you have got to buy hardware from a third company, especially if it's an iPad based companies. And then you have to spend your attention to like social media. Got to stay focused on to you got to stay focused on to like inventory management. You got to stay focused on to like multiple things, and that is a difficult thing. So we at PSP decided is like we would be like one stop solution for them, and whatever is going to be the challenges, like whatever they require, whatever is needed from a business perspective, will be one stop shop for them. And the best part what we did for them is like we paid a detailed attention, not just from processing perspective, not just from point of sale perspective, but we created a complete automation software which is also going to help them from marketing perspective. So that was like the biggest difference that we had in us, like, and we'll continue to ensure it's like we create a complete automated system so that businesses can continue to run with one solution.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have a strong base in the technology aspect of the product then. And you mentioned that sometimes these customers are dealing with multiple vendors and it might be hard for them to make decisions on who to choose. So how did you approach getting your first few customers and get your product to market?
I think it's like approaching is like the first line of customers was a bit of hassle for us because we were pretty new as a startup, but we did pretty well. We had a transparent approach. We told them like we're pretty new to the industry, but we want to create the difference. And I think it's always about a transparent approach. As long as you are transparent, the customer wants to listen to you, because the biggest thing in this industry, what we have realized, is customer support. So if you're going to be around for them, and if you're listening rather than selling to them, that's going to create like a significant difference, and you can win as many clients as you possibly can.
I see. So it sounds like sort of like customer centric service is a big part of the way that you like to approach the market. If you think about how things have grown over time, was there a specific channel, whether it was a partnership or a hire, that unlocked the growth that you have today?
Definitely, it's like we are dealing with a massive industry. We're talking about like 1.5 million restaurants and more to come from a US perspective. And then apart from the restaurant niche, we also are focusing on to the retail sector. And apart from that, it's like we are also in the service industry. So since we are catering to such a massive audience, we have to make sure it's like we are not getting out there all alone. It's very important to have some sort of like partner relationship. So we started like partnering up with independent sales organization, and that has been like a game changing moment for us because these organizations have amazing experience. They come with like 20 years of experience. Some of them literally come with like 25 years of experience, and they are locally present over there, so they know the pain areas of the customers, they know the customers pretty well, and at the end of the day they want to offer like the best solution to them. So our partnership with them has been like fruitful. We're getting the best feedback from them. We are rolling out the product like never ever done before. It's the fastest way to roll out the product through independent sales organizations.
I'm sure there's a lot of other founders out there that are looking to sort of expand their partnerships, whether they have a current partnership strategy in place or they're looking to implement one for the first time. So, could you elaborate a little bit as to how you got that partnership and then the value they're bringing to the customers, and how that relationship has evolved?
I think I think it's very important to understand the value proposition. So I have learned this throughout my business career that as long as like you are committed to offer like value, either it could be a partner, it could be your customer, or it could be any stakeholder into your ecosystem, and if it's the right value proposition, things starts spinning up for you. And that's exactly what we have done. So we kind of like have taken like a reverse approach. So when we approach like any independent sales organization, we do not propose them like what we want to offer. We tell them like what is that you are looking out for and how can we help you to expand the business. So it's a reverse approach, and the same approach goes from the merchant perspective. So it's not about like selling the product or we could be the best product. It's a reverse approach to understand what are the pain points, and if we could offer you the solution, would you be interested and would you be looking out for change? So that's the difference. It's always about like understanding the perspective from a different orientation. It's not about like selling things, and that's exactly what we do at Pace.
I like that approach a lot. I think it's a breath of fresh air based off how much a lot of companies are pushing, obviously, to sell product. I mean, it's like you need sales at the end of the day, but when you can make it customer centric like that, I think it adds a lot of value and the customers really appreciate it, as well as the partners, like you mentioned. If you think about some of the earlier days or any decisions that you've had to make that were tough, right? Things you didn't want to do, but you felt like you needed to do for the business. What were some of those decisions that you wrestled with?
I think some of the decisions were very tough because we kind of like started, and it was a we got like a pretty good start, I would say. Like we were pretty fortunate about it, but the kind of like request which came on coming, and we kind of like got like defocused, and there were like too many requests coming up from the retail sector, and then we started getting like multiple requests coming from the restaurant sector. See, at the end of the day, you're building solutions for the customers, you're building solutions for your partners, but it's very important that you stay into complete alignment because you have like enough resources, and you got to make sure it's like you are very very productive with respect to like whatever resources you have, and there is like so much of justice that you can do. So I think that's been the decision making. Like we're really tough. Sometimes we have declined the merchants with all due respect, and we have told them like we won't be the best product for you or we won't be the best fit for you, but it is what it is. It works out like in favor of the merchants, it works out in favor of the company, and the company get like a strategic roadmap to grow and expand.
That brings up a really great point, which is in the sales world, which is where my background is. A lot of times the best sales reps are the ones that can tell their customers no, or they're very sort of particular as to which deals they want to work because they don't want to spread themselves too thin. So I think that's a really important point, which is figuring out where you want to focus. Is that a skill that you developed over time, or is there a way that other founders can think about what the best decision is on where to focus when they might be wanting to get every customer, but it might be a better option to focus on one specific industry before going too broad.
I think, Matteo, that's a brilliant question, and that's exactly differentiates it's like someone from a first time it's like a startup as compared to it's like someone who's like who has got like pretty good experience. And I would say it's like I've learned it in hard way. This has not been it's like one of my first startup. It's always difficult to say no or to make sure it's like you're declining your first customer because they are the one which is going to produce revenue to you. But at the end of the day, it's like you know exactly where you want to navigate the company towards. So as long as like you know the end vision and you know where exactly you want to head towards, it's better to say no right now than to regret. Because once you know it's like okay, you're walking on a certain stream and you stay absolutely focused toward that, I think the customers would automatically follow.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a hard lesson on maybe delayed gratification. It would be nice to just sell that deal or bring that customer on. But I really like the point you bring up, which is if you are very clear on the vision you have for the company and that specific industry might be steering away from your original vision, then that sounds like a good signal for founders to listen to their gut and to say, I'm going to focus on the original vision. So I think that's super helpful advice for people out there. Thank you for sharing that. If you think about more tough times, did you ever want to give up? You said you're a repeat, entrepreneur. It's not your first startup. So if you think about even Pays or previous ones, were there times that you were like, I don't know if it's worth it?
I think there had been like circumstances in which we really wanted to give up, like because there is so much we can do as a startup, and you're trying to compete with like multi-billion-dollar giants. So the kind of like expectations that the market has is like, okay, if you are pushing like a point of sale solution out into the market, you got to have the basics. And according to them, it's like basics are something which company took over like 10 years to build in. So they really don't understand it's like what it takes to build the entire technology stack. And that's always been a challenge for startup companies. So we had our tough times. We had times in which we said it's like okay, it's enough. Like this is something which big billion-dollar companies can do it. But the best part is like we don't give up, and the reason we don't give up is like we got like trusted merchants which started pretty early with us, and that's the trust is like they put into us. And when we go back and see it's like okay, they trusted us, it's like we got to continue with the journey for them. And we have to make some sort of like differentiation factor so that we could push the company ahead. There always were tough times that we faced for sure.
Yeah. So as everyone does, so it's cool to see you guys push through that. You mentioned technology stack. That brings up a question a lot of people like to know, which is what are some essential tools or part of your tech stack that you feel like you couldn't live without? Let's think things like maybe CRM, whatever AI agents maybe you're using, anything that you feel like would be hard to do business without in your current tech stack.
I think if I take into consideration the current trend, think the adaptability towards artificial intelligence is going to be essential for any business to survive upon. And we are very, very focused. So right from the get-go, we made sure it's like our systems are cloud systems. So any control is like, or any modifications which was required, we could do it remotely without bothering the merchant at the physical locations. So we started off with like cloud thought process. We made sure it's like all the systems are dynamic, but now it's like we're shifting the gears towards making this entire company AI based, and we're working on like large language models. We are partnered up with like Google. We are proud to like make partnerships with them. So we are a part of like Google startup program, and we're taking like whatever support we could from like Gemini. And I think there are like amazing features that we plan to do from merchant perspective, from businesses perspective, and it's going to be a game changing thing for the merchants.
Love to hear that. It's really cool to see how you're integrating that to your product today. It's I can't not ask as someone who has experience with artificial intelligence, do you think it is hyped up? It's overhyped, or do you think it is essential to startups and businesses to integrate into their products and services today?
I think the difference between that's a pretty good question from a hype perspective, because we generally feel it's like when something new comes up, something trendy comes up, in the technological industry, we feel it's like it could be an hype. It, like for example, blockchain could be an hype, but we have to see it's like what kind of like use case we are talking about. And we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about like large language models, we're talking about like massive data. So if I think from a practical perspective, it's very difficult for a business owner is like to make decisions, and decisions, good decisions can be based upon like whatever data you have. So for example, like if the restaurant owner will not on the top of his mind know exactly it's like where his strengths are going, it's like is he in a profit making situation, or what can he do, it's like what products are from working from a profitability perspective. So that's exactly what artificial intelligence is going to do. Artificial intelligence will help him to make right decisions about like what offers are going pretty well, what promotions are going to work out in his favor, what the other competitors are trying to do. Is the price, whatever price he's trying to sell, is that a competitive price? Uh, think from online order perspective. Artificial intelligence is going to bring up like multiple customers back to the merchant. So there is so many use cases is like which are possible through artificial intelligence. And I definitely see it's like even if it's an hype, it's very important to create like practical use cases which could work out like beneficial for like most of the businesses.
Well, that's good to hear because even just looking at some of the recent venture capital data, it looks like funding was only growing from an artificial intelligence perspective. So, like AI backed startups were the ones that grew from last year. So, it definitely seems like it's a very essential part to technology today. If you think about general misconceptions in startups and building companies, what comes to mind?
I think the general misconceptions are a lot of like startup entrepreneurs feel it's just an idea. It's good to have an idea, but I think the real thing is going to be like execution. So it's not just idea that will make you successful. It's very important that you pick up an idea and you start to think it's like how can you start the implementation and how you execute it, what kind of like patience you're going to keep it to be going out into the market. So it requires a very broad spectrum, not just having an idea and getting out into the market and saying that we're going to be successful. That's definitely not going to be enough.
So, you bring this example of taking action, right? And in making execution is most important. If you think about the balance between preparedness and potential over preparedness and taking action to get feedback and execute on a plan, how do you draw the line of making sure you're not over preparing, but you're not taking action blindly? Is that something you think about?
I think it's a pretty thin line that you walk upon. I would say it's like it's better to be prepared than not to be prepared.
Yeah.
Why do we regret? It's like I would say like readiness will definitely help you, will support you. You'll have like a clear vision of like where to navigate the company towards. So definitely I think extremely important from a business perspective, from a startup perspective, to think ahead of time, to make the right decisions is like ahead of like time, and make sure it's like you reach it's like where you really want to reach.
Awesome. One more thing. If you were to build a company again from scratch today, whether it's Pays POS or a new company, how would you approach it? What advice would you have for a founder that's looking to start their first company?
That's really good. It's like if I really think from a practical perspective, I think we spent in our early days like too much into product engineering, and I feel like we should have spent our time into market research as well. But I don't regret the decision because it was like essential. It's like at times it's like to make sure like we have the right product and the right beta product which comes out into the market. But definitely I think at the end of the day it's like it is the customer who defines the product, it is the customer who decides the success of any product.
Love it, love it. Well, let's move into some closing thoughts. Then, what are you most proud of from everything you've accomplished?
I think I would say like I'm very proud of the kind of like culture we have nurtured at the company. We have created a very open mind culture. It's not about like what is needed. We always put thoughts across like how can we do it from a creative perspective? How can we do it from an innovation perspective? And I think the culture is shifting towards like how can we start thinking from artificial intelligence perspective? How can we start thinking from like machine learning perspective? And how can we could be like most effective for what our customer wants. So this culture that we have nurtured in coming months, or the way we want to nurture, I'm very, very proud of this culture.
That's great to hear. I'm sure your team appreciates it as well, Rohan. Is there anything that we didn't get to that you wanted to touch on?
I think it's like we pretty much covered up like the ages. I think from our company perspective, we are a very open-minded company, and we definitely want to see it's like what more innovations could happen from artificial intelligence perspective. And we are doing a lot of like surveys. So definitely, I think we want to be the first company out there. It's like from a point of sale perspective, which could be in like an AI POS company.
Well, if people want to connect with you, Rohan, or learn more, where can they reach out or find you?
I think the best way to reach out to me is going to be like LinkedIn. The second best way is going to be on the website, which is going to be payspos.com. And if they want to reach out to me directly, they can send an email to me, which is going to be like Rohan at payspos.com.
Perfect. Is there anything you want to plug around Pays? You guys hiring or any big news coming out you want to announce?
Oh, definitely yes. It's like we are constantly hiring like multiple AI engineer. So if you want to be a part of like a game-changing fintech moment, please give me a buzz. I would love to talk with you.
All right, you guys hear that? Go ahead and reach out to Rohan if you're interested. Thank you so much, Rohan, for your time. Look forward
Thank
to
you.
connecting again in the future, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Appreciate it. Have a
All
good
righty.
one. Bye for
Too.
now.
All opinions expressed by Matteo and his guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of their employer, employees, or affiliates. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions.